To the American Family Insurance DreamBank, where we believe in the transformative power of dreams. My name is Andy Frisky. I'm a senior coordinator here at DreamBank. On behalf of our entire team, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to join us here. As we get started, we always like to learn where people are joining us from and encourage you to share in the comment section, the chat section, excuse me, if you're comfortable in doing so. From a gloomy downtown Madison, Wisconsin today, but Sue and I were just chatting before we kicked off, and she mentioned she saw the first robin. So hopefully spring will be just around the corner. For those of you who have attended our virtual or in-person events in the past, welcome back. And for those of you who are joining us for the first time, we'd love to take a few moments here and introduce you to DreamBank. So here at American Family Insurance, we believe communities are stronger and the future is brighter when people are actively pursuing their dreams. And that's why we created DreamBank. It's an inspirational community destination and virtual experience that's dedicated to dreamers everywhere. From our daily event series to immersive signature programs, there's something for every dreamer. And our offerings are designed to help you celebrate the dream journey, to overcome obstacles, and to stay motivated. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce our featured speaker today, Sue Gresham, again, chatting about boosting visibility with LinkedIn. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and kick it over to Sue. Sue, take it away.
Okay, great. Thanks, Andy. Welcome, everybody, and welcome to Boost Your Visibility with LinkedIn. This is going to be PowerPoint. Just to give you a quick little synopsis, I'm going to ask you to add some things in chat on occasion, and we will aim for having a few minutes of Q&A at the end of this presentation. So let's get started. How's that? Again, I want to welcome everyone. And the very first thing that I want to do is I want us to get our thinking caps going, okay? And I would like for you to think a little bit about what that word visibility means. There's a big dictionary definition. I'm not going to go there with it, but here's what I'm thinking. As we're talking today and as we're talking about what visibility is going to mean, as far as LinkedIn goes, we're going to talk about you being visible on LinkedIn when you are easily found by other people and when you're clearly identifiable. And that means that people will recognize you, that they'll see your photo, that they'll know who you are. So I want you to think about that. When we're visible, that means that we have, that we're doing activities on LinkedIn that then have people finding us, and we're doing things and we're having conversations and we're connecting and all of those things, right? But here's why visibility is so important. It's so important because it increases awareness about who you are, what you do, and what it is that you're going to offer to the community on LinkedIn and to the community at large. So if we think about your visibility and if we put a goal to it, I'd like for you to think about it as something that increases your awareness, that you are standing out of the crowd above everybody else that might be in your niche. And even if you're not standing above them, at least standing at the same level that they are, okay? Because one of the things we don't want to do is we don't want to be this lost in a crowd person, all right? You want to, depending on what your goals are, and in a minute, I'm going to ask you to share with me what those are. You might want to be like the resource person, the go-to person that people are going to come to when they're needing help. You might want to be easily referred by others. If you're looking for a job, that's the way you get your jobs, right? Like something like 85% of all jobs are found by people that refer you to something else. Maybe you want to make an impact. Maybe you want to be doing speaking, or you want to be doing something where you're out there and you're making a difference in your community. But one of the things that you think that you might want to be is always top of mind, because when you're top of mind, that's when the phone starts to ring and that's when magic happens. So this is me. Back in 2023, at the end of the year, I was named one of the top 12 LinkedIn experts in Milwaukee, because I'm from Milwaukee. One of the things that this came as a result of me being visible on LinkedIn. I didn't even know that this potential award or designation was out there until all of a sudden it landed in my inbox. And it was because I was visible out on LinkedIn. And because of that, that's allowed me to have my dream career. Speak to you like I am today. I teach people one-on-one. I do workshops. I do seminars. I'm on podcasts. I'm a panelist. These are all things that I absolutely love to do. It's my dream career, and it's all because I've been visible on the platform that I promote, and that's LinkedIn. And that's what you can be doing too. So I want to get started. Let's talk about, we're talking about being visible on LinkedIn now, okay? Here's what it doesn't mean. It doesn't mean that you are posting all the time and all the day. You don't have to do that to be visible. It doesn't mean that you have to have lots of profile views, although those help. That isn't how we define what visible is. Today, we're going to talk about visibility as being found, and it's the process of engaging with the people that you are connected to on LinkedIn. So what I'd like for you to do quickly is think about a little bit what LinkedIn is. All right. LinkedIn is not like Facebook. It's not like TikTok. It's a professionally focused, and I like that term, professionally focused social platform. So social means obviously that there's interaction. And in that interaction, people are on LinkedIn to build relationships. They're there to find decision makers and collaboration partners. They're there to grow their business. They're there to find a job, and they're there to grow their personal brand so they can make that impact that I mentioned earlier. So this is your chance to pop in the chat real quick. What is your why? What is your reason for wanting to be visible on LinkedIn? Let's just take a second, and I'd love to see a couple of responses pop up in chat. If what do you want to do? Do you want to find a job? Do you want to be a well-known author? Do you want more podcast opportunities? Do you want to grow your business? Are you looking for clients? Are you looking for collaboration this year? That's it. By the way, collaboration seems to be a big theme word that keeps popping up this year with a lot of people. Are you looking for the referrals? What is it exactly that you're looking for? Let's see what some of these are. Someone says keeping my career options open. Bill says find my next job. Katrina says network. Yep, network, huge. And that's what LinkedIn is, right? Sharon says supporting other people to seek your help and know what you're doing. Oh, see? And that's making an impact, isn't it? Helping other people. I've got here, somebody else says build and find my personal brand. Find your personal brand. I think that's kind of interesting. I like that. Personal growth. That's a biggie. LinkedIn is one of the #1 spots where people come, by the way, for learning. Building professional connections and network. Yep. Now, I'm going to assume, this is what Molly said, I'm going to assume that you have a goal. The next goal for that is, what do you want to do when you're networking? Okay. What is it that you want from people to do? And we're going to talk a little bit about that and how that fits into your LinkedIn activities and the things that you do on LinkedIn. Let's see, attract clients, says Adrian. I'm just going to scan through a couple more to see if there's any. Keep my purpose alive. Oh, that's a good one. Career advancement and networking, says Becky. And then find my next job and network. All great reasons for wanting to be using LinkedIn. Promote my book, find speaker opportunities, says Cheryl. Love it, love it, love it, love it. So these are all reasons that people are using LinkedIn. So as you can tell, everybody has a different reason, don't they? But here's where the rubber meets the road, okay? It's just like if you go to the grocery store, or you get in the car and you know exactly where you're going. You know, when you get to the grocery store, generally speaking, you've got at least 2 or 3 things that you know that are on your list that you want to buy. So you head to those departments, right? Whether it's getting a gallon of milk or a loaf of bread, whatever that might be, right? You are heading into a direction, and the things that you're doing, the route that you take into the store, to the store, is really the path that you're taking to get the things done that you're looking for. Now, granted, you might see something in the chip aisle that you weren't really thinking about and you grab it, and that's perfectly okay. But the idea here is that you've got a reason and a purpose and a goal that you're actually working for. I will tell you that there are days that I will jump into LinkedIn and I know what I should be doing, but then all of a sudden that little squirrel thing pops up and I read a post and I'm like, ooh, and I go down this rabbit hole, right? And it could be a real time suck. And then I kind of forget about why I went into LinkedIn to begin with. So what I'd like you to do is I would like you to be thinking about the things that we're talking about now and coming up in the next 45 minutes or so, yep, about 45 minutes, as your goals whatever it is that you want to accomplish on LinkedIn, it's your goal. Okay. And that is what is going to dictate the things that you do and the things that you say on LinkedIn. So here is the questions that I want you to be thinking about right now, and either do a screen grab of this or write them down on your piece of paper and come back and think about what your answers are to these. Because as we talk about the different parts of your profile and about building a network and about some of the activities you can be doing, you're going to want to be keeping the answers to these questions in mind. So are you ready? The first question is, what is it that you want to accomplish on LinkedIn? And we kind of talked about that a little bit earlier. What do you want to say in your profile? Think about what it is. Like, so like, I think her name was Cheryl, had said that she's an author and wants to get on podcasts and she wants to get traction for her book. So obviously Cheryl is going to want to let people know that she is an author, right? What the name of the book is, that should be in her profile. But here's the other piece to it too. The activities that she does on LinkedIn should be talking about the things that her book is about. Now, maybe not completely 100% all the time, but about what her book is about. So people will see her be an expert. So who you connect with. As you're looking at your goals, are you going to connect with? Is Cheryl going to connect with people that can help buy her book, that are interested in buying her book? Or is she going to connect with publishing houses that are going to help her publish the book? Is she going to connect with podcast hosts or people that are affiliated with podcast hosts? So think about what that looks like and how she's going to move through LinkedIn. Who to connect with, who to follow. What you say in your one-to-one conversations with people. Do you start out by saying, hey, I'm an author, or do you build into it slowly? We're going to talk about that. All right. And we're going to talk about what it is that you want to post when you're talking about it. So I kind of spilled the beans a little bit by using Cheryl as an example, but that's the traction we're going to take on this. So what is it you want people to know about you? What do you want on your profile? Who do you need in your network? Where are you going to have these conversations? How are you going to get the word across? Why you're here, and the when. Okay, and the when does come in handy because there's when do you want to launch those conversations? When is the right time to talk about certain things? Now, we're not going to be able to answer all those questions today. I'm sorry, we don't have enough time, but we're going to hit some of the high level things. So I would like you to think about 3 major components that are part of your LinkedIn. And you maybe have thought about these already, but it's obviously having a profile where people are going to come to get to know who you are and what you do. It's having that network because this is that social platform, right? And then the key that seriously, 99% of the people, okay, I'll change that number, more like 86%, because that's the real number. 86% of the people on LinkedIn have a profile, but they don't do anything with it. And I just read another stat today that actually, I'll be really honest with you, it floored me. Only 2% of the people that are using LinkedIn in the United States are actually posting anything on LinkedIn. 2%. So are you part of that 98%, or are you part of the 2%? If you want to be visible, we're going to want to build you into that 2%. And we'll talk about some strategies for that in just a few minutes. But let's start with profiles first, okay? That's usually the place everybody wants to start. That's the place that everybody gets wigged out about. It's like, oh my God, what do I put? I can't talk about myself. So let's just talk about that for a minute. Your profile serves 4 purposes. It's real simple. How it helps people get to know who you are. Because they're going to read your profile. They're going to get to see all about you. They're going to find out what your experience is. They're going to find out what it is that you do, how you do it. It's a place where you establish your personal brand and expertise and your authority. And there are certain sections on your profile that are huge for that, okay? And we'll talk about some of those in a minute. Here's the one thing that I think people kind of forget about. In fact, if there's a #1 mistake on LinkedIn, I would say this is it, is that their profile doesn't match what they say about themselves and who or how they interact, and it doesn't put all the loose ends together. I met somebody, it was about a week or 2 ago, okay? And actually, as a matter of fact, it had to do with podcasting, okay? Funny how that happens. But she was somebody that I met, and we were having a conversation, And she told me that she had her own podcast. And I looked at her profile, and there wasn't a single word about her podcast on her profile. She is a podcaster. She was looking for people to be on her podcast. She's looking for guests. She's looking to promote her podcast because she uses it to monetizes her podcast. And yet there was no place on her profile that talked about that. So people will look at your profile to reinforce that you are who you say you are and that you do what you say you do. And here's the other thing about profiles that you may or not be aware of, but they're Google indexed. So if I was to Google somebody's name, I'm going to see, and if we're not connected on LinkedIn, I'm going to see a link to their LinkedIn profile. And I click on that link, and what I'm going to see is a representation of their LinkedIn profile. If I'm actually logged into the link to LinkedIn at the time that I'm doing that, I will see their full profile. If I am not logged into LinkedIn, if I'm on another browser or whatever that is, if I am not logged into LinkedIn, I will see what is called a public profile. And so what I'm suggesting that you do is you take a look, there's a setting, it's on your profile, it's in the upper right corner when you're editing your profile, and it says edit public profile. Take a look and see what people see that on the regular Google searches, what they're seeing that's part of your profile. Are they seeing the real you or not? Because it is totally searchable on LinkedIn. I'm sorry, on Google. All right. So now the question is, what do I put on my profile, right? Your LinkedIn profile is something like 40 areas now, 40 different areas where you can be putting information, and that may sound overwhelming, but we're going to talk about how to break that down. The main thing here is that when people come to look at your profile, what they're really interested in is, why should they care? Or what's in it for me? WIIFM. What's in it for me to be connected to this person, to want to know this person, to care about this person, to do business with this person? That's what they're looking for from your profile. So your profile, and this is a great screen to do a screen grab on or write these things down. Your profile should talk about these things, who you are. And those are keywords that you use. Who are you? I am a LinkedIn consultant. I'm a trainer. I'm an expert. I'm also a podcast guest. I'm a speaker. I am the owner of my own company, but I don't say owner. Okay. I am a panelist. I am someone who helps entrepreneurs use LinkedIn effectively. So what I do is I help people do that. And how do I do it? I do that through the training, and that information is in my headline. It's also throughout my profile. Who do I serve? My headline, if you go look at my profile, it says, who do I serve? I serve entrepreneurs and small business people and coaches and consultants. And it says that in various places throughout my profile. The problem I solve is I help people learn how to use LinkedIn so that they can maximize what it offers, and it helps them show up better in a better light. That is their outcome. They get the confidence. And my profile talks about why I'm the right person. And there are sections in there that mention that. So if you're answering these questions in your LinkedIn profile, then people are going to get to know who you are and do business with you. So here's some profile tips. Again, this is very high level, but I mentioned about having about 40 different sections in there. LinkedIn has got areas for you, like besides the top box with your great profile photo and all of that. It also has in the job area, in the experience area, we talk about your job title. That's Google searchable, keyword searchable. It's searchable on LinkedIn. So job titles, okay? Make sure that those are accurate. Descriptions. There are so many places in LinkedIn where they ask you to describe what that is. So it could be your job description. It could be in the volunteer area. They give you an area to talk about a description of what you do in your volunteer. So think about all of those sections that are on LinkedIn. You can click on and say, add section. There's cores and there's additional sections. Look at those and see which ones are applicable to you, and then think about how you can fill that with information that's going to answer some of those questions that were on that previous slide. Another big mistake I see is people that set their profile and they think they don't have to worry about it again. Okay. It's meant to be updated as you change ad services. Cheryl that's now has a book out there and has podcasts. She may change some, or speaking, she may change some of the topics that she speaks about. That would go in her profile. Okay. Whatever that is, make sure that when that book gets published, if it isn't already, that you update your profile and add that to it. And here's the other thing, be really crystal clear about what you do. Okay. I talked to another person recently who I happened to meet her at a networking event, and she was there. What she was doing for the networking event was a side gig. Okay. And I looked at her profile, and it was her 30-hour-a-week job that she had listed there because she felt it was more professional, that's what LinkedIn should be. Your LinkedIn profile is meant to be a place that talks about what you do in every way, shape, and form. Okay. So if you have a side gig, unless your current employer is totally opposed to and doesn't know about it, and there's some things about that, but don't be afraid to let people know that you've got that side gig, because that's what we do now. And that shows that you've got depth, that it shows that there's more that you do. If there's a passion project that you're involved in, make sure that people know that, because that might be how they're finding you and how they know you. So we don't want to be sending confusing information. If you are no longer working, and if you haven't been working for a long time, but your profile shows that you're still employed, that's sending a real mixed message to people that are looking at that going, wait, I thought he was looking for a job. So make sure that you've updated and cleaned up those things that need to be updated. Your about section, I do a whole workshop, and actually, if you look at my LinkedIn profile and you look at my newsletters under activity, you can look under newsletters. I have a newsletter that I've written, a LinkedIn newsletter specifically about what to put in your about section. I suggest you go read that and get some ideas on how you can make your about section really help you stand out. All right. We want people to know what it is that you do and how you do it. It's not a third person thing. It's a first person story about what you do and what you're good at. Keywords all throughout. And a good way to know where a keyword will work or not is when you go into search. Here's a big tip. Go into search, click the filters, and see what places the filters bring up. Okay. What the different places are that keywords might work. Skills are keywords. And the last thing I want to say is, if you don't tell the world how great you are, they're never going to know. They're never going to know. I can help you get that word out, but if you don't start it by wearing your own badge of glory on what you do, nobody's going to be there. It took me a long time. Oh my gosh, it took me forever to feel confident to put the word expert behind my name or anywhere on my LinkedIn or even anywhere. Okay. But if you've been doing something for a long time, you sure as heck are an expert. So let the world know. Wear it proudly. Again, these are bonus sections. Skills, if you haven't been in LinkedIn for a while, check out skills, because now you can add 100, and these are soft skills, hard skills, industry skills. There's a bunch of different options in there. But here's the thing, you can now assign them to each of the positions that they're relevant for. You can assign them to a certification. You can assign a skill to your education. You can assign a skill to your 5 in your about section. You can assign a skill to volunteer. Great way for visibility, because the more times you do that, the higher you come up in search. Okay. Here's the thing that I want to make sure that everyone thinks about here. Okay. In that other screen, you are the solution to someone's problem. Okay. Whether you're looking for a job, or whether you actually have your business, or whether you are an author of a book, or whatever it is, you are the solution. And what you want to do is you want to make sure people know that you are the solution. but it's not the product you sell. So for instance, my product is I sell LinkedIn. Okay. Well, I sell the services of teaching you how to use LinkedIn. That's only one piece of it. I also make it easier for you to understand LinkedIn. The solution is I help you feel more confident. I help you stand out above everyone else. That is the solution. You don't go to, and that is the thing that you want to get across in everything that you're doing in LinkedIn. So think about it from that way. You're selling know, like, and trust. People are looking at you on LinkedIn. They're reading your things. They're networking with you because they want to know you, like you, and ultimately trust you. Okay, let's talk about connecting. And I know that there's questions about profiles, and that's great. We will get to those when we get to the end, okay? Connecting. This is one of my favorite movies. And one of my favorite lines is when she says, "You had me at hello," right? That's not real life though, is it? I can't think of any time that anybody has ever had me at hello, except, oh, maybe Tom Cruise, but realistically, that doesn't happen. It's really a process of getting to know someone. And so as you are building your network, the idea here is that you want to have goals for it. Who is it that you want to network with? Who is it that you need in your network? Because during this process of getting through connecting with people in the various ways that you're connecting and you're having conversations with them, you're going to be in different phases of relationships with everyone. So the first phase, if you like to think of it this way, the very first phase in the connection phase, when you're just accepting that connection and you really don't know them, is you're building that relationship. Okay, you're getting to know each other. Okay, think about this like when you go networking, right? And you're to a networking event and you're having that very first conversation. "Hi, I'm Sue. Who are you? What do you do? Tell me about yourself." Okay. You might not be so concerned about, you might ask a question about, where was a great trip that you just took? Something that you get to know a little bit more about somebody else. And you know all about networking, ice-breaking questions. LinkedIn's real life. So there's absolutely nothing wrong with bringing those types of things into your conversations. Once you've got a beginning of a conversation going, then you start to be nurturing that relationship. You start to have more and more conversations. There is this rule of thumb that says that it takes 11 times of interaction, touch points, before you actually have moved out of the no stage and into something that's getting to build something else in the relationship, like a nurturing phase or a maintaining phase. 11 interactions. Now, they don't necessarily have to be one-on-one exactly, but 11 touch points at some point. So think about what that's going to take to get through the no process, but then the nurturing process. All right. And then ultimately you're at the trust point. But when somebody trusts you, you can't forget about them, right? You got to stick with them. And this is the way it is in real life. LinkedIn is that same way. So here's a little, again, a screenshot if you want to do it. All right. But this is kind of the way that I work with my clients, and we talk about how you're going to build and nurture and maintain the relationships that you're developing. And guess what? This is real life stuff, right? This is real life stuff. You connect, you follow, you get to know someone. You start with conversations. You ask curious questions to get to know a little bit better. In the LinkedIn world, sometimes you might want to think about taking those offline and go over to email or pick up the call or do a Zoom call. And you're moving from the no to like, and you're going for deeper conversations. You'll notice in here, I'm not saying anything about selling, am I? I'm not. Okay. This is all about getting to the point before you have the right to sell. Okay. Deeper conversations, thinking about what it is that the people in your network want to know about you, thinking about the things that are keeping them up at night, the things that these all go into how you are creating your LinkedIn presence to be visible, to be top of mind, to create awareness. So I get a lot of questions like, who should I connect with? And here's what I'm going to suggest for you. Start with your lowest hanging fruit. Okay. There are people that you have met that you've known for a really long time that you aren't connected with on LinkedIn. Now, maybe they're not using LinkedIn, but maybe they are. Think about some of your relatives. I'm connected to some of my siblings. They're in the business world. Why not? Even if we don't do the same thing, why not be connected? Connect with some of your neighbors. So think about the low-hanging fruit, the people you just met, and make sure that those people are part of your network. Here is something that I really want to share with you, though, and I feel like probably the best way to do this is to actually show you an example of what was in my connection, in my network invitations to connect. This was about 3 weeks ago. I received 2 invites within 2 days. One was on a Wednesday and one was on a Thursday. One was at 2 o'clock in the morning and one was at 6 o'clock in the morning. And they were basically the exact same template wording. It started out with what it was, why they wanted to connect. Here's their headline here. You'll notice that their headlines are very similar. C-level appointments, they're trying to sell me their services basically. Potential business impact is the title of this, is what they put in here, as they actually have this as part of the invitation. And then it's this wording. So one of the things that I want you to do is, as you are building your network, think about people getting the invitations, or when you get invitations, you go, what the heck? Who is this person? Why do they want to connect? Personalizing your invitation in a way that gives them a reason to want to connect without selling your stuff, without saying, hey, I've got a book, are you interested in buying it? Or, hey, I'm running this podcast. Can you listen to my podcast? Or, hey, I'm looking for a job. Without doing that, but coming up with a really good reason for wanting to connect is going to help build that relationship, build that know, like, and trust. So in your relationships with people, okay, you're going to start having an invitation to connect with people. And I realize that if you have a free account, LinkedIn has only set you up for allowing 5 invitations a month to personalize. So that means you have to be a little creative on the things that you can be doing and the way to get the word out to people. One of the ways you can do that is when you look at their profile, if you've got that blue message bar, send them a message and tell them first that you're sending them an invitation to connect and why you want to do that. So you're saving your personalized invitation and you're sending them a message. Undoubtedly, and I don't know what the new stat is, it used to be something like 68% of invitations were ignored when there wasn't a reason for the sending of the invitation. So you want to have that conversation, but here's where the magic happens. It's after the connection. This is the way that you are staying visible in front of somebody, is you connect with them and you continue the conversation. So you send the invitation, you say, hey, let's connect because, and I just did that. I don't know if she's on this call or not, but there's a Faith that I just connected with yesterday, and she does something that I'm very interested in. And so I said to her, you know what, I'm really interested. I'm not very good at video. I would love to have a conversation with you. I don't remember exactly how I worded it, but guess what? I reached out and I told her my reason for wanting to connect. And I know that in my inbox, in my messaging area, there is a response from her because I saw it come through. I just didn't get a chance to get to it yet, but I will. If you're on the call, I will, as soon as we're done with this. But here's the thing. You want to continue the conversations. And that means going into the messaging inbox area and continuing that conversation. I've had some amazing conversations that once we've had a couple here and there about, well, tell me a little bit about, oh, hey, when you were at school. Now, granted, this was somebody that was young, not somebody old like me, but, or, gee, tell me about when you worked at this company. I know somebody that used to work at that company. Did you know them? Anything you can look for to have in common with someone, and then moving it and sharing that information and continuing to supplement that is what you want to do. And then even more things, the more things that you're giving would be, after you've done business with them, do a recommendation, write a recommendation or referral, or endorse them for a skill that you've witnessed that they've done. These are these little things that when you do those, you pop up in their notifications and you're visible. I know that your inbox can get really messy. So here is a tip for keeping track of those messages that you are in the middle of a conversation with. There's a little star on the message. It's right over here. You can see my arrow. I've happened to have starred this message. So now when I'm looking at my messaging, I can see that I've got this message from Sarah that we're talking about getting back together again later in the week, because it gets really easy to forget about that, right? And you can sort by the starred messages. So this is the LinkedIn thing that you can do to stay on top of what's happening in your inbox. Here we are. We're talking about wanting to be visible. So when you are in front of someone and you're having these conversations in the inbox, when you're doing the connections, when they're viewing your profile, these are the times when you are front and center of somebody. But it doesn't last forever, does it? So this is that piece that is often neglected. It's the thing that people don't do. Out of sight, out of mind. Many of you are on other social sites, so you know what a home feed is on Facebook. You know what it is on Instagram. You know TikTok. You know you can do reactions and all of that kind of thing, right? Twitter, all the rest of them. This is still a social networking site, even though it's professionally built. So what I'm recommending that you do is you take off your suit and tie and you put on your whatever you wear to work that isn't a suit and tie, you know, your regular, somewhat professional, but yet real person clothes, and you start engaging with people on your home feed. And the 3 places to do that are just like what you see there: commenting, reposting, and reactions. So I want to talk a little bit about, just for a minute, about these, because not all comments are the same. And I'm being very mindful of time here, so I'm going to talk about this pretty quickly. Not all comments are the same. So, but the idea here is that when you see something that is interesting, that someone that you're connected to talks about, when you see something that you've got something that you can add to the conversation, because comments are conversation, you are becoming visible to not only your network, but their network when you add an interesting comment. An interesting comment is not necessarily, oh, great job, or congrats. If you say something and you see a congrats, like I just did the other day with someone that's in a job search. She said that she was looking for a job, and I asked her a question to ask her a little bit more about the industry that she was interested in. So think about how you can continue the conversation with the comments, and then when they comment back to you, because posters should be doing that, then you can comment back again and keep a conversation going. Reposting is a great way to share what someone in your network is saying that is important, and now you are reposting it and you're sharing it with your network. That is a post. So if you don't know what to post, sometimes resharing someone else's content with your own comment is very much your own post, and that's a great way to become visible, not only to them, but also to your network. And then reactions. Reactions are really the low-hanging fruit, right? Those are the things that are the easiest to do, but they're also the easiest thing to misinterpret. And here's an example. Probably a year or 2 ago, so I'm going back a ways now, a friend of mine created a post, and he was talking about something, and I don't remember the exact post, but I remember the pushback. And what the post was about, it was about getting out there and following up with people and doing, it wasn't having to do with LinkedIn, but it had to do with business in real life business. And he used the F word in his post. Well, I took the lazy way out and I liked his post. Okay. And I liked the post, not because of the F word. To be honest with you, I didn't really like the F word, but the point he was making in his post really made a difference. And it was a great thoughtful comment. Well, what I didn't realize was the pushback I was going to get personally by liking that post. I received a very, very angry inbox message from a former client who was very upset and very disappointed in me because I was actually endorsing by liking that post that had the F word in it. And that was not the purpose of what I did. I took the lazy way out. If I had commented on that, and if I would have added my thought about why I thought that was an important post that he made and the impact of his idea versus just liking it, I'm pretty sure I wouldn't have gotten the blowback from that person because they didn't understand what I wanted, what my reason was for doing it. So I'd like you to think about what your brand is and think about the impression that that is when you're liking or just or taking, excuse me, or taking the lazy way out. And I don't mean it's really necessarily lazy, but in my case, it was. So I wanted you to think about that. All right, posting. I'm just curious, how many of you, and go ahead and put in chat, how many of you post on LinkedIn? And I'll come back and I'll look at the chat in just a minute about that. But if you do, give me give a thumbs up or something like that. Do you post anything on LinkedIn? There are so many, Irina raised her hand, thank you. There are so many people that don't understand what they can post about or don't know what to post about. So here are 4 things or 3 things that you can post about, okay? And then the 4th thing is why, but you can you can post something that provides value, okay? It could be sharing an event that you're attending or that you attended. And the post could be about one of the takeaways that you got from it, okay? That provides value, even if it's not directly something that you are, like for instance, this, okay? If you created a post after this talk and you said, you know what? Sue said it was a great idea to blah, 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 blah. Whether that has to do with what you're doing or not, you're providing, whether it has to do with what you do for a job, the fact that you attended this, the fact that you're sharing that is providing value to your network. Okay. Inspiring. It's really easy to post something that's inspiring these days because there's so much inspiring stuff going on. I have a client who just rode in a gravel bike race. Okay. That's inspiring. To be able to be in shape and to do that and to travel and to do that, that's inspiring. That's showing, and that's showing something that he does outside of work. Educating, well, that's an easy one. There's plenty of things that you're an expert at that you can share and educate. The main reason for posting, though, is because you can control the topic. You can control the narrative on what you want people to know. I mentioned earlier that only 2% of the people in the United States that are on LinkedIn, and there's something like 200,000 people, 220,000, I'm sorry, million, 220 million people that are in the United States are on LinkedIn. I don't even know what that number is because I'm really bad with math, but think about that. If only 2% are posting, if you start posting, you will get visibility. So here we go, real quickly. Posting tips. LinkedIn has an algorithm, just like Facebook, just like all the rest of them do, right? What you don't want to do is you don't want to get too hung up on the algorithm, all right? Right now, video is hot, but if you don't do video, then don't worry about it. You do what you do, okay? The algorithm also is changing all the time. I will tell you this, right now, over posting, this is a fact, and I would say that maybe if anything, pay attention to this piece of the algorithm. If you post more than a couple of times a day, your things are not going to get traction because they kind of pull the traction away from something previously that you posted. All right. So maybe think about only posting once a day. But there's nothing that says you have to post every day. And the algorithm doesn't require it. So as long as you just are posting once in a while. So you're going to see a lot of stuff coming up. There's a guy that does this huge, big study, and it's very possible that it will show up in your feed somewhere along the line with all of these tips on the best way to do things. Do what you do. Do what's best for you. Okay. Continue your conversations. If you do post, make sure that you go in and look at the notifications and then have those conversations with the people that are taking time to have conversations with you and that are taking time to comment. You owe it to them. And that keeps it going. And it keeps it going with the feed. And there are some posts that will go 2 or 3 weeks now because it just kind of keeps dripping along in the feed. So just pay attention to that. And probably one of my biggest pet peeves is when you tag everybody and anybody and it has nothing to do with them. Somebody I know a long time ago tagged me for something that was absolutely nothing to do with me. She has a professional dating service where she matches up professional people, okay, for dating, and she tagged me in that. She was only doing that to get at my audience and for me to respond. If you tag people that it's relevant to, then if those people are on LinkedIn, they'll engage. So make sure that it's purposeful and make sure that it's something that's going to be of value to them. The thing here is being consistent. So if you do go in to post, this is not a post a day. This is on the day that you post. Make sure that you are having conversations. Don't post and ghost, okay? Have conversations with people that, along in your inbox and also along in the feed, okay? Engage in that feed, engage with people, because believe it or not, the days that you post, people will see that you've posted. Some people will, but maybe not everybody will. But if you've been engaging and you're visible to people, then your post is going to show up. It might show up. And if nothing else, if they go look at your profile, they'll see that you're active and that you did post. So you want to make sure that on those days that you post, that you spend a little bit of time in LinkedIn. So a good thing to do is have some inbox conversations with people, do some one-on-one messaging. And it could be people that you haven't talked to for a while. It could be something that you see on a feed and you respond to that person privately, but have some inbox conversations. Connect with people as you meet them and continue to do that on your post day. Here's a little tip. LinkedIn, now this is another algorithm thing, but you're not posting for the algorithm, remember, but we're talking about visibility here. But when you connect with someone, LinkedIn makes the assumption that you're interested in that person. And if you've posted and if they've posted, the activity that you're doing shows up on your feed. Your post will show up on their feed. So as you are in the connection process, you might see if you're spending time and you're posting with a bunch of people, or connecting with a bunch of people, you may find that all of a sudden they're popping up in your feed. This is a great time to have a conversation with them, whether it's in the inbox for sure, but definitely maybe comment on their post too. Talk about a great way to give and be visible in front of them and to create that lasting relationship. It's a great way to do it. And my favorite, I have a timer. Oop, I didn't mean to make it beep. I have a timer. I use it because it's so easy to go through that rabbit hole. So these are the things that I do. So I spend, when I go in and when I'm going to be posting, and by the way, I pre-post, but I know that I've pre-posted for 10 o'clock in the morning or 11 o'clock in the morning. And I pre-post within LinkedIn. When I do pre-post, I go into LinkedIn within an hour of that and I do my engagement. And it's part of my regular plan. It's on my calendar. It's on my schedule. So I threw a lot at you. I know I did. But visibility is kind of one of those things that it's not something that we can just think that, okay, I've got something going this week, so I better pop on LinkedIn. It's one of those things that you have to build some traction with, okay? And it's one of those things where you can't be afraid to jump into the water and to start to show the world that you really are the expert that you are. And the only way they're going to do that is if you become visible, and if you are engaging with people, and if you're connecting, and if your profile shows all of those things, all of those wonderful things that you are and that you do with your business, and the things that you do as you're looking for your job, and all of those things you've done in your career. All of that adds up. Well, good. And we have time for questions. So this is something that I'm offering to you all very quickly. If you are interested in a no sales call with me, where what we'll do is you'll tell me in that 20 minutes what it is that you're hoping to accomplish with your LinkedIn, and we'll come up with I'll give you a couple of ideas of things that you could do so that you become visible. Feel free to get onto my calendar, get on my schedule, and let's spend 20 minutes, okay? The other thing that I would really like to have you do is connect with me on LinkedIn, okay? That's what I'm here for, is I'm here to be your resource, to be a resource to you. And I love to connect with people that I've spoken to and spoken with, and hopefully start to carry on some more conversations. All right. So I'm going to stop the share at this point. And I am yours for the next 10 minutes, 8 minutes.
Yeah, we got a good jump start too. We got some really good questions in there. So folks, if you are wanting Sue to answer one of your questions, we'll obviously get through as many as we can up until the 1 p.m. Central Standard Time cutoff. But we got a good backlog. So go ahead and use that Q&A function within Zoom to type your question. So the first one comes from Mark. Sue, in your opinion, should those that have experienced a layoff add a quote unquote career break to their experience section? What is the value in doing so? And if you do recommend, what format do you suggest?
Great question. Okay, so the idea of your LinkedIn profile is that you want it to be to verify what you say, right? So I'm not saying that your profile should match your resume word for word. Please don't do that, because your profile is not your resume. However, as you are going through this, I'm not sure if your resume has a place for a career break or not, but LinkedIn does allow an experience section, and they do actually call it career break or something like that. And it would be an experience. And in that, you could put in the description of why you had the career break, if it was a massive layoff, and what you did during that break in order to maybe improve your skills, or in order to learn something new, take new schooling, whatever that was. I know some people are stay-at-home parents too, and that's a very important thing. There is nothing wrong with including that on your LinkedIn profile, because your profile and your activity is all about what your career trajectory is and what you've been doing throughout your career. Also, the about section is your summary, and you can, if you don't want to do that in the experience section, put a little sentence in your about section and just say, we had a layoff, and during that time I was reinventing myself, or I was, pivoting to a new thing. Don't be afraid to do that, because that's the real story.
We had another question, a couple questions come through about the about section. This one from Cheryl. When writing your about section, how much is too much?
Great question. 2,600 characters is too much, because that's how much you're allowed, and not everyone is going to want to read that. But people are going to, if you take a look and you break your about section down into a couple of thoughts about what you want to get across. The first thing is you want to get across what it is that you do and how you do it and who you help. Okay, so make that interesting. And then if you can add in there some little story, maybe a few paragraphs about what it is that qualifies you to do that. Maybe that was something in your career. Maybe that's something that you're doing now. Okay, and just a couple paragraphs. And then if there's something else really interesting about you that you know that those people want to know, okay, then, or something that makes you likable, right? So maybe you, something very likable, right? It's people that adopt puppies, right? And they take care of them. That's everybody loves that. So if that's something that you do as part of your life, put that in there too. So it's up to you to gauge how much you want, but you don't need to fill all 2,600 characters as long as you get the main parts across. Okay?
Love that. Love that. Thank you for that. This next question comes from Kim. How do you navigate your 9 to 5 from your side hustle, or what you plan to do in the future? I hear that it's not good to concentrate on too many things that don't align. For example, I work at a fintech company during the day and day for pay and want to show that skill for future jobs, but I'm an entrepreneur and have other ventures that have nothing to do with fintech. Any insider advice there?
Well, I think that first of all, I think that there are skills that overlap. All right.
Sure.
For sure. Okay. And so some of those skills might be communication skills. They might be organizational skills. They might be the softer skills versus the hard industry type skills. So those definitely overlap. And so I think that those would be the ones you would want to highlight so people could see both. But back to that thing about them being totally different, you are you, right? And you're whatever it is that you're trying to get into, you're trying to get into it because it's a passion or because it's something that you firmly believe in and you want to make an impact. So this is the story. Your LinkedIn profile and the about section and all of these things is the story about you. All right. And so if your primary focus, and you do have to pick one primary focus. If your primary focus is going to be to find another job in fintech, well, then that's where you have to put most of your eggs in the basket right now and make that higher. But if you're working into the other, you can certainly minimize some of that fintech talk and talk about the entrepreneur stuff. So I hope that answers a little bit of question. If you need, you've got that strategy thing, we can dig into that a little bit deeper.
No, I love that. So find, overlapping skills, trying to highlight those, but then also prioritize like where you want to focus your energy and effort to make sure that you're highlighting that. I really,
Exactly.
yep.
Thank you for summarizing.
Perfect. Yeah. I know we're getting close to on time here. One thing I really wanted to highlight, or two things in particular. So there's been some questions surrounding the recording of this event. This event is being recorded. The link will be shared out to the email address in which you used to register for this event once the event is done. We also have a brief post-event survey that will be in your inbox at right when this event ends at 1 p.m. Would really love if you all could take just a couple of moments and fill that out. That really helps us dictate where our content goes, the direction we take, and the types of events that we put out. Sue, question for you. So here at DreamBank, we are a community that is built up of fellow fearless dreamers. And we always like to ask our presenters, what's one piece of advice you have for someone who's actively pursuing a dream right now?
Oh, gosh. I didn't know this question was coming, but I love it. So here's what I would say. If you're actively pursuing a dream, first of all, you're not going to be able to work on it 24/7, right? So whatever that dream is, make sure that you can carve out some time to actually work on it, okay? And take that first step or the second step, wherever you are in that process, because things like this, whatever you're doing, it takes time, it takes heart, it takes energy, and you're not always going to have that time, heart, and energy at the same time, but definitely make time and enjoy what you're doing as you're building it.
So current self needs to look out for future self and prioritizing time blocks to make sure that you have time to work on said dream.
Andy, you are so good at paraphrasing what I say. Could I just have you with me all the time? I mean, this is great.
Forget Fathom, forget Otter AI. We've got Andy.
We got Andy.
Sue, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to join us here. Such a wealth of information. Thank you all for joining us here as well too. Again, keep an eye out in your inbox for the recording and the brief survey. Again, well done, Sue. Thank you so very much. I certainly took some good takeaways from this. With that being said, we will go ahead and cap it there, and we will see you all next time. Take care.
Bye. Thank you.